Hey everyone, welcome to another walkthrough video of Excel Wonders. We're going to look at a tool called Pi of Pi Charts Template. This tool allows you to create Pi of Pi charts and Pi of Bar charts. So when you open the file, you should arrive at this page called Pi of Pi Regular. And this page is split in three parts. It has a few selectors on the top, it has a chart in the middle, and it has a table at the end. Let's start with the table, because the table contains the values and items that you will be able to visualize on the chart. And here in this table, you can do a lot of things. You can add new rows, you can select different rows, you can make changes, you can move them around and reorder the table however you want, and you can delete like this. Here it is. As you make changes on the table, you should see them reflected on the chart. If for some reason you don't, you can always click Update Chart, which will ensure that the chart matches exactly the values that you have on the table. Now, looking at the chart, there's a few other things you can do. You can, for example, change the distance between the pie charts. Right now it's set as medium, but for example, if you click long, it will increase the distance. If you click small, it will shorten the distance. As you make changes in this selector, you also see a change in the size of the pie charts. Why? Because that's how Excel works. Now let's go back to medium here. Now the second selector here is the size of the second pie. Right now it's set as smaller, but you could make it bigger. You could make it the same size, or you could make it much smaller. And finally, it shows the number of items in the second pie. So right now, if you look at the table, it has eight values. And what essentially it says here is that as of value number 5, so the last 3 items of the table, they will start showing on the second pie. As you increase these, it will start taking the values of the table starting from, for example, item number 6. So the last 6 values here, these 6 will show on the second pie. And that makes sense because here, if you look at the first pie, it shows Florida and Nevada, which is exactly the first 2 values you see here. And that's it. Those are the things you can do on this page. Let's go to the one with motion. So the Pi of Pi motion is very similar to the page that I just showed you, except for a few differences. So if you look at the table, for example, you have a couple of extra columns because not only you have the ability to show the values for just one time frame, but you have for 3 time frames. Why? Because those 3 time frames will be used as you see the motion when you press play here. And these time frames can be years, can be months, can be quarters, can be whatever you want. But the functioning of the table, so your ability to add new rows, to reorder them, and to delete, is exactly like I showed you in the previous page. And also, these selectors here on the right hand side above the chart works exactly the same way as well. So the distance between the pie charts, the size of the second pie chart, and then the number of items that you want to see on that second pie chart. The one thing I want to show you here is one of the differentiating elements, which is this area here that governs the motion. It has 3 buttons. It has the play, pause, and stop, and it has here the time meter. So as you click here to play, you will see that this chart will start changing and show different values, each one of them corresponding to a different column. It essentially loops through the values here, and it starts with the first column, second column, and third column. You can always pause or stop the timer as you want. And now if you look at the Pi of Bar, it's exactly the same as the Pi of Pi. So the pages are exactly the same. But the only difference is that in this third page, you don't have a Pi of Pi, you have a Pi of Bar. It's a visualization difference. The chart itself is different, but the functioning of the entire page is the same. And I could say the same thing about the Pi of Bar with motion. Again, it's very comparable to the Pi of Pi with motion, but the Pi of Bar, as you can see, it shows a bar instead of a pi in that second chart on the right hand side. In settings, you will see the settings split between Pi of Pi chart or Pi of Bar without motion and with motion. The differentiator is always this without motion or with motion. And without motion, you can change the label for the category in the series, and you can change the formatting as well. You can change between number, percentage with 0 decimals or 1 decimal. And then in Pi of Pi chart or Pi of Bar chart with motion, not only you can do those same things that I just showed you before, but you can also change the time frames for each of the columns. So right now it's set as 2022, 23, 24, but again, it can be quarters, it can be months, it can be days, it can be whatever you want. You can also change the number of seconds that when you start playing the motion, the number of seconds that it keeps on each column. So right now it's set as 3 seconds. So every 3 seconds it goes to the next column. But you could put, for example, 5 seconds like this. And finally, you can choose whether to show a pop-up whenever the timer ends or not. Right now it's set as yes, but you could put as no. And that's it. That is the Pi of Pi charts template.